Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajikacharya Sota Visata Shri Srimana's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 30, titled Description of Adverse Fruit of Activities, and we're up to text 14. Tatrāpy ajāta-nirvedo bhriyamāṇaḥ svayam bhṛtaiḥ jarayā upātta vairūpyaḥ maraṇa abhimukhaḥ gṛhe tatrāpy ajāta-nirvedo bhriyamāṇaḥ svayam bhṛtaiḥ jarayopātta-vairūpyo maraṇābhimukho gṛhe tatrāpy ajāta-nirvedo bhriyamāṇaḥ svayam bhṛtaiḥ jarayopātta-vairūpyo maraṇābhimukho gṛhe more men. Vaishnavis? Tatra, there, apī, although, ajāta, not arisen, nirvedaḥ, aversion, bhriyamāṇaḥ, being maintained, svayam, by himself, bhṛtaiḥ, by those who were maintained, jarayā, by old age, upātta, obtained, vairūpyaḥ, deformation, maraṇa, death, abhimukhaḥ, approaching, gṛhe, at home. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. This is Lord Kapila speaking to his mother, Devahuti. The foolish family man does not become averse to family life, although he is maintained by those whom he once maintained. Deformed by the influence of old age, he prepares himself to meet ultimate death. Purport. Family attraction is so strong that even if one is neglected by family members in his old age, he cannot give up family affection, and he remains at home just like a dog. In the Vedic way of life, one has to give up family life when he is strong enough. It is advised that before getting too weak and being baffled in material activities, and before becoming diseased, one should give up family life and engage oneself completely in the service of the Lord for the remaining days of his life. It is enjoined, therefore, in the Vedic scriptures, that as soon as one passes 50 years of age, he must give up family life and live alone in the forest. After preparing himself fully, he should become a sannyāsī to distribute the knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home. Om Ganatamaram Dasha Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Okay, so once again, this is Lord Kapila speaking to his mother, Devahuti, and he's describing the situation and the plight of a materialistic male human who's too much attached to family life. And we're hearing here how this person, he's not prepared, to leave the family situation, despite the fact that he's becoming deformed by the influence of old age. Lord Kapila says he prepares himself to meet ultimate death. But that prepares means he's just resigned. It's not like he's done doing anything. He's not being proactive. He's not like what's being referred to there is not that he's taking any steps. He hasn't. The materialistic person doesn't take any steps. He just remains in that situation. And the preparation is just that he's, aware, and he's, thinking about, I'm about to die. That's the preparation that's being referred to here, okay? Which is different than what we're going to hear about as this purport develops in the purport. Okay, so in the purport, Prabhupada says, family attraction is so strong that even if one is neglected by family members in his old age, he cannot give up family life, and he remains at home just like a dog. Okay, now, the purport takes a different tack here. Prabhupada starts talking about the Vedic way of life. He says, in the Vedic way of life, and this is of interest to us because we're trying to follow the Vedic way of life. So we're hearing something now about it's relevant, more relevant and to us. In the Vedic way of life, one has to give up family life when he is strong enough. So when is that? Well, ideally, when you're 5 years old, right? Komaram acharet pragyo. Does anybody know the rest of that verse? Yeah. Prahlad Maharaj is instructing his classmates, right? And he's telling them, hey, don't waste time, running around playing whatever they played those many millions of years ago during the recess at school. Now's the time to start getting Krishna conscious. Like now, while we're kids, we're strong enough. And it says here, so yeah, one is advised to give up family life when he's strong enough. Ideally, right away. That's why Prabhupada, gave us the Gurukul system to train these kids so that, they become Krishna conscious right from the get-go. So it's right from the beginning. Goes on. It is advised that before getting too weak and being baffled in material activities, well, that doesn't take too long these days. We see that. We see how it doesn't take too long for kids to get weak and be baffled in material activities. All you have to do is just kind of let them eat junk food and give them a phone. And they'll become weak very quickly because, junk food is, I remember one class Ajāta-nirvedo Prabhu gave, he referred to food-like substances. It's not actually, there's no nutrition there. There's no nutrition. So, if a kid's brought up eating junk food, which includes hamburgers and fries, out there, you're not going to be able to be healthy and strong. I mean, one thing I've noticed, because my service is book distribution sanctum, I'm going to colleges and universities, I've noticed the difference in how kids look. Well, they're not kids, young people look over the last 20 years. I mean, I used to be impressed. I see all these young people, they look healthy and and now you still see some like that, but you see a lot of kids that are just already, grossly overweight, and they just look like, right? All spaced out. So, Kali Yuga, you can get, you can get weak and be baffled in material activities very quickly. And once again, the cell phones, because they go on the internet and they just mesmerized. That's the exact word for it. Mesmerized by this, this electronic activity. So it takes its toll. So it goes on to say, and before becoming diseased, one should give up family life. I'll throw this in there for no extra charge here. I mean, one of the big issues now, and it's acknowledged by the administration, and mental health issues. Oh yeah, that's where I heard it from. I heard it from Mother Nandini Radha. She's a professor. She's a professor at Channel Islands University, and she was telling us that actually that's a big concern now among the faculty, the staff, mental health issues of the students. It used to be mental health issues, I mean, not like now, but so that's another factor. Anyway, so it goes on to say, and this is the real point, that one should engage oneself completely in the service of the Lord. That's the real point of this that Prabhupada's making here in this, his purport, that one should engage oneself completely in the service of the Lord. When? The sooner the better. The sooner the better, right? I mean, the Vedic way of life is set up so that ideally you do it when you're 5 years old. Prabhupada said on many different lectures, there's no necessity. It's not like it's compulsory, obligatory that one has to enter into the grihastha ashram at all. If one can go from brahmachari directly to sannyas, that's good. It's just that most people can't do that, not competently anyway. So therefore, these other arrangements are there. But if somebody can do that, that's really, really good. But anyway, once again, the idea is completely engage oneself in the service of the Lord. And it says here, for the remaining days of his life. Well, we don't know how long we're going to live. See? We don't know how long we're going to live. What to speak of for how long we're going to be healthy, strong, not diseased like that. Nobody plans on getting the flu. Nobody, right? Or nobody plans on whatever. But it happens. See, so, there's that expression, make hay while the sun shines. So, which means that, okay, now, if we're still alive, and hopefully we're kind of still healthy to some degree or another, so we should, right away, be serious about engaging ourselves completely in the service of the Lord. Prabhupada goes on. Now he brings in a Vedic injunction. That's serious business, Vedic injunctions, okay? So he says, it is enjoined, therefore, in the Vedic scriptures, Vedic injunction, that as soon as one passes 50 years of age, he must give up family life. Okay, well, we kind of touched upon this already. As soon as one passes 50 years of age, he must give up. That's what's being stated there. That's not an ideal standard. That's like the minimum requirement. Ideally, you should be giving up family life way before 50 years of age. And when I say giving up family life does not necessarily mean moving out of the house. Giving up family life is giving up a certain mentality. Now you say, he's watering it down. No. Prabhupada, when he talked about sannyāsī, he would say, multiple occasions, sannyāsī is a matter of realization. Sannyāsī is not a matter of like putting on saffron and holding a danda. It's a matter of realization. So in the same way, giving up family life, that's also a matter of realization. It's just like, somebody could be a sannyāsī in any situation, really, if they have that realization that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. My prime duty in life is to engage in service to Krishna. That person's a sannyas. Doesn't matter what, quote unquote ashram he's in. You're a sannyas if you're absorbed in that and you're thinking like that and you're acting on that. You're a sannyas. And the same way, you've given up family life if you've made that decision and you're acting upon it. That from this moment, I'm trying to engage myself completely in the service of the Lord. That's that's the real important thing about giving up family life. That you have that determination that I'm going to try to engage myself fully in the service of the Lord. And Prabhupada says, he goes on to say, so after you pass 50 years, you must give up family life and then live alone in the forest. Okay, so that's there, in the Vedic. I can't remember the Sanskrit, but it's actually stated just like that, translated to just like that, live alone in the forest. But we understand Vedic injunctions. We understand everything about Krishna consciousness through the medium of the bona fide spiritual master, who's the transparent via medium. So Prabhupada, not just in lectures, but there's at least one purport that I can remember. I think it's in the 8th canto. He explains that for us, for his followers, that living alone in the forest, we're not meant to take that literally. Okay? We're not meant to take that literally. Prabhupada would say, the thing in that purport, he refers to Vrindavan's a forest. So he goes, my followers, they should go to Vrindavan. We went to a lot of effort to, establish guest houses and, a center there with guest houses. The idea is that Prabhupada wanted followers to, if that was the best program, to retire, going to Mayapur, going to Vrindavan, live near some temple and engage yourself fully in devotional service. That's the idea. That's the modern day equivalent, authorized by the spiritual master, the acharya, of living alone in the forest. That you go and you live near some temple, so you have access, and you engage yourself fully in devotional service. Don't move away from the temple. I mean, the idea is, move to the temple. Sometimes we see people get married and they move away. Okay, I mean, I'm sure they got some good reasons, but the idea is come here. Be near the temple so you can engage in devotional service. That's really what's important. It says here, after preparing himself, herself, fully, he should become a sannyāsī to distribute the knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home. I'll say, once again, that's there, and that's a, the Vedic injunction, and that can be taken literally. It's not like that you can't take that literally. It's nice to take it, but also figuratively is okay as well. In other words, everybody should prepare themselves to distribute knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home, or at least prepare oneself to be supportive of that. To feel like, yeah, that's what I want to do it. If I can't do it, I want to help those who are doing it, because that's what it's all about. It's all about engaging fully in devotional service, and in so many different places, Prabhupada said, preaching is the best service to the Lord. Trying to share Krishna consciousness with other people. So that's, once again, the practical application of this instruction, that one should prepare oneself to become a sannyāsī and distribute knowledge to spiritual life in each and every home. To elevate oneself from a kanishta adhikari, which is just concerned about yourself mostly, to a majjhima adhikari. Majjhima adhikaris are concerned about others. They recognize there's the Lord, they worship the Lord, they make friends with other devotees, they avoid the openly atheistic people, they don't get into arguments with them like that, and they're compassionate towards those who are innocent, you see? So that's second class, and this is describing how you have to elevate yourself to that, at least to that second class platform where you're sympathetic. If you ideally doing it in some capacity, you don't necessarily have to be, grab a book bag and go out to a parking lot or something like that, but there's so many different ways to preach, and ideally, yeah, if you could be actively engaged in that, but at least that you're supportive, you're sympathetic, you appreciate these activities, you appreciate that, yeah, this is important. This is what Prabhupada wanted. Prabhupada wanted to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. So I have to try to get on board with that, So that's there. Now, somebody might feel, upon hearing this, okay, this is very nice, but I don't think, I don't see myself, being able to do it. I don't see it happening. I've been a devotee X amount of time, and I just, well, you might be thinking I can't, but maybe you can. And I'm going to try to present something now that hopefully will give devotees, everybody who's hearing this, some new inspiration. Okay? So, and the idea behind it is we shouldn't sell ourselves short, but really what that means, what that actually means is we shouldn't sell Lord Chaitanya short. We shouldn't sell the parampara short, and all the acharyas and all and Krishna. We shouldn't sell them short, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So every morning we chant. I lead the chant of it. How if one is engaged in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, but he's committing the 10 offenses, you don't get the love of Godhead, which is the ultimate goal of the chanting. See? So what would be the opposite of that would be if you don't commit the 10 offenses or any of the 10 offenses, you do get the love of Godhead, which is the ultimate goal of the chanting. Okay? So we're supposed to be, ideally, experiencing ecstatic love for God. And if we're not, then we should understand, well, wait a second, then maybe I'm doing something wrong. There are verses in the Bhagavatam which directly state that. It's not just Chaitanya Charitamrita, that if you chant without offense, you experience ecstatic love for God. So if that's not what we're experiencing, we have to analyze, we have to be introspect and go, oh, okay, what's going wrong here? Well, I don't know which one I'm committing. Maybe I'm committing all 10, but looks like I'm committing some offense here because I'm not experiencing ecstatic love for God. So what do we do about that? Well, of course, you try to, if you can think of one particular one, you're committing and stop it. Here's a general recommendation that could be very, very helpful. It first appears in a purport to the 3rd canto, where Prabhupada talks about this, because this is an important thing. If we can somehow or another become free from these offenses, then just by chanting Hare Krishna, we'll experience ecstatic love for God. And when you're experiencing ecstatic love for God, along with that comes this mentality of wanting to distribute knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home. You don't have to make a separate endeavor to be thinking like that. You're going to automatically be thinking, how can I share this with others? That's going to be immediately there. Okay. So here, Prabhupada, in a purport to a verse in the third canto, I can't remember which chapter, it's about in that section about when the 4 Kumaras tried to go to Vaikuntha. Anyway, and then one text starts talking about the chanting and then the offenses. And then towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, when one is free from all 10 of these offenses in chanting the holy name of God, he develops the ecstatic bodily features called pulaka-ashru. Pulaka means symptoms of happiness, and ashru means tears in the eyes. The symptoms of happiness and tears in the eyes must appear in a person who has chanted the holy name. Okay, goes on. The holy name offenselessly. So that's what happens when you chant the holy name offenselessly. You display the symptoms of happiness, one of being tears in your eyes. Okay, so it goes on. Here in this verse it is stated that those who have actually developed the symptoms of happiness and tears in the eyes by chanting the glories of the Lord are eligible to enter the kingdom of God. Okay, so it's something worth trying to do. And it goes on. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that if one does not develop these symptoms while chanting Hare Krishna, it is to be understood that he is still offensive. Goes on. Chaitanya Charitamrita suggests a nice remedy in this connection. There it is said in verse 31, chapter 8 of Adi Lila, that if anyone takes shelter of Lord Chaitanya and just chants the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, he becomes freed from all offenses. So here in this purport, Prabhupada's kind of like giving a hint of, he says a nice remedy, but he doesn't really say much. He just mentions it and goes on and stops there. But he does, that's not the only place that suggestion comes up, that nice remedy. Again, in the Adi Lila, chapter 7, there's 2 places then where Prabhupada picks up on that and elaborates upon that. One is chapter 7, I think it's text, I'm going to find it in a second, I'll tell you. Yeah, right in the beginning, text 4, Prabhupada says, there are 10 offenses in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda. He says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Mahavadanya Avatar. Anybody know what that translation for that Sanskrit? Mahavadanya Avatar? What's the translation for that? Most magnanimous, right. The most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. So does anybody like to attempt to give a dictionary definition of what that word magnanimous means? Be honest with you, I did it because I wasn't like 100% clear, so I looked it up. And this is the dictionary definition. Magnanimous. Generous or forgiving, and it's underlined. The word forgiving is underlined. Okay? Generous or forgiving, especially toward a rival or less powerful person. So that's magnanimous. So what Prabhupada's saying here is that Lord Chaitanya is the most magnanimous incarnation. So putting 2 and 2 together, that means he's the most generous or the most kind. He's the most forgiving, especially toward a rival or less powerful person. Okay? So he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. So what about, but we're not rivals, right? We're not rivals, are we? Yeah, we are. We're rivals. There's one lecture where Prabhupada, okay, sorry, about someplace else. Prabhupada in one lecture uses that word, I'll read it to you. This is an excerpt from a lecture Prabhupada gave in 1966, where he explains that actually everybody here in this material world is a rival. Okay? Whether you know it or not, you're a rival. Here it goes. Prabhupada says, in the spiritual sky there are spiritual planets, and on each planet the Lord is manifested. There are innumerable planets. That information is given in Bhagavad Gita, that Purusha sa para parta. That spiritual sky, the predominating personality of Godhead, is transcendental. Just like here, in every country, in every planet, there is a predominating personality. In your country, the predominating personality is President Johnson. Similarly, in every country, there is a predominating personality. Similarly, in every planet, there is a predominating personality. So the same system is there also, referring to the spiritual world. But there is no rival. Purusha sapara parta. There, the personality of Godhead, there's nobody rival. Just like here, the predominating personality, President Johnson. When the next election will come, there will be so many rivals. But in the spiritual sky, there is no rival. In the spiritual sky, the Supreme Lord is the Supreme, and those who wanted to become rival, they are put into this material sky under the condition of the material nature. This is the difference between spiritual sky and material sky. So there you have it. Prabhupada says, those who wanted to become rival, they are put into this material sky under the condition of material nature. So in case you were wondering, how did I get here? Well, because we wanted to become rival. Prabhupada, it's black and white, it's clearly stated. Those who wanted to become rival, they are put into this material sky under the condition of material nature. So anyway, the real important point is that Lord Chaitanya is referred to as Mahavadanya Avatar, the most magnanimous. Means he's very generous and kind to rivals and less powerful persons. So there's the hope. You see, there's the hope that, we might be feeling like, wow, this is overwhelming, it's too hard, blah, blah. Don't sell the mercy of Lord Chaitanya short. We should try to, this is a good suggestion here. Take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, of the Panchatattva. Taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya means taking shelter of the Panchatattva, means, as stated here, chanting that mantra. Sometimes I've noticed lately in kirtans, Naikampa Prabhu is putting in a few extra Panchatattva mantras there, to my pleasure. I've noticed that. And it's a really basic, important thing. Prabhupada elsewhere says, well, about that he says, a little later in that same chapter, he says, by such chanting, referring to the chanting of the Panchatattva Mahamantra, he says, by such chanting, one is blessed with the competency to chant the Hare Krishna mantra without offense. Well, that's exactly what we're looking for, right? This is it is a nice remedy. That's exactly what we're looking for. Something that'll help us chant the Hare Krishna mantra without offense. Okay, then there's another purport, the one that Prabhupada was referred to in that first one I read in the third canto, chapter 8, text 29 through 31. And that's a doozy. I'll read something from there. I won't read the whole thing. I'll read the translations, a couple excerpts from the purport. So this is a section where it's talking about the chanting of the holy name. And there's a verse that says, if one chants the exalted holy name of the Lord again and again, yet his love for the Supreme Lord does not develop, and tears do not appear in his eyes, it is evident that because of his offenses in chanting, the seed of the holy name of Krishna does not sprout. Okay, we've heard that a lot. And we repeat it a lot. Every morning I say, that verse, Bahu Janma Kariyari, if one is infested with the offenses. So we know that, okay? Okay, but this is what we don't repeat. We might not even know what to speak of repeat. We might not even know this. The very next verse, okay, this is the very next verse. It says, but if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, very quickly he is cleansed of all offenses. Thus, as soon as he chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he feels the ecstasy of love for God. And in the purport, Prabhupada says a few nice things. He says, in spite of being an offender, if one chants the holy names of Gaur Nityananda, he is very quickly freed from the reactions to his offenses. And then a little further on he says, in the beginning one should very regularly chant Sri Gaurasundar's holy name and then chant the holy name of Lord Nityananda. Thus one's heart will be cleansed of impure desires for material enjoyment. And then he goes as far as to say, oh yeah, then there's another one. He says, since everyone within this material world is more or less influenced by sinful activities, in the beginning it is essential that one take to the worship of Guru Gauranga and ask their favor. For thus, despite all his disqualifications, one will very soon become qualified to worship the Radha Krishna Vigraha. So a lot of benefits. And then finally he concludes, he says, it should be noted in this connection that the holy names of Lord Krishna and Gaurasundar are both identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should not consider one name to be more potent than the other. He goes, considering the position of people of this age, however, the chanting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name is more essential than the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most magnanimous incarnation, and his mercy is very easily achieved. So that's a big sentence right there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most magnanimous incarnation. Notice he's the most generous, he's the most forgiving, and consequently his mercy is very easily achieved. And Prabhupada goes on to say, therefore one must take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda. So it's worth a try. I mean, right? It's worth a try. I mean, you know, statements like from the Shastras, we're supposed to take it. This is true. You know, it's not just some, what's the word? Not euphemism, but, you know, the word for an exaggeration. Hyperbole. This is not hyperbole, right? We're not supposed to think that, you know, in the Shastras, that hyperbole is like an exaggeration. But no, this is not hyperbole. We're supposed to, you know, it's like fact. And yeah, so it's worth making an experiment, I would think. Chant more that the Panchatattva mantra, pray for the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and his associates. You know, actually, it's explained in that earlier in that chapter 7, that Lord Chaitanya, he appears in 5 features. You know, when you to properly worship Lord Chaitanya, you're supposed to worship the whole Panchatattva. He's appearing in 5 features. That's an important point. So yeah, and the benefit is great. Let me see if I could. No, I don't have it with me. Oh wait. Well, I'll read you one more thing. This is a verse from the beginning of the 8th chapter, and it goes. It says, "By remembering the lotus feet of the Panchatattva, a dumb man can become a poet." That could be taken in 2 ways. Dumb meaning you can't speak, and dumb meaning you're not very bright. Either way, a dumb man can become a poet, a lame man can cross mountains, and a blind man can see the stars in the sky. So that's the statement of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He says, he's talking about stressing Kripa Siddhi, perfection by the mercy of superior authorities. It says this mercy, and I guess this is the principle. I didn't really explain it, but here it's Prabhupada's explaining it perfectly. This mercy does not depend on the qualifications of a devotee. By such mercy, even if a devotee is dumb, he can speak or write to glorify the Lord splendidly. Even if lame, he can cross mountains. Even if blind, he can see the stars in the sky. See, so it doesn't depend on the qualifications of the devotee. Mercy means you get, justice is when you get what you deserve, and mercy is when you get something more than you deserve. So we're going for mercy. And we, as I said, we shouldn't sell the mercy of, you know, Lord Chaitanya, the Acharyas and Lord Chaitanya short. And actually, this is, you know, Uddhava was picking up on this. You know, we just heard yesterday in Prabhupada's lecture. What was the thing that Uddhava was kind of really moved by? He was moved by this magnanimity of Krishna, that he was so magnanimous that even this Rakshasi, or right, whatever Putana was before she took that form, came to kill him, you know, by putting the poison on her breast. But Krishna took it. Nah, I forgive that. I know what she was really up to, but that's okay. She was kind of like acting like my mother. So, and Uddhava was like, wow, that's really somebody special, you know. Who could, yeah, and it's kind of like far out, you know. Sometimes when I hear that example, it doesn't hit home. In my research, and this is the last point I'll make, I looked up about an example of magnanimity, and the example that was given, interestingly enough, was Nelson Mandela, who actually, I don't feel too bad mentioning his name because he kind of was a bit of a devotee. I mean, he had association with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, right? And I remember hearing this once, that he actually memorized, I don't know if he memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita or a heck of a lot of it, because, and he made the point that that's how he kept sane. Because he was active in acting against apartheid, which was like, segregation of the races in Africa, and he got jailed for 27 years. He was put in jail for 27 years, okay? And then the thing was, when he did a lot of introspection and stuff like that. When he came out, he not only did he get out after 27 years, but he became president of the entire nation, okay? So he was in a great position to get revenge against, the leaders of the apartheid and, the people who treated him badly. But what did he do? Nope. He didn't do that. He invited him for dinner. That's what's being described. He didn't seek revenge. He decided, I forgive. It's okay. I forgive. And he worked with them to try to bring it, move the nation forward in the right way. And a lot of the people, who were his rivals, enemies, even rivals, too soft a word in that case, enemies, they were like blown away. They were like, what? We just had this guy in prison for 27 years, and now somehow or another he got out, and he was out, and he's become president, and he's in a perfect position to kind of, wreak havoc or seek revenge. But what is he doing? He's extending himself and want him to work with us. So it's a really big quality, I mean, you could, from that example, hopefully we can understand better. So, even more so in the case of Lord Chaitanya. Anyway, I'll stop there. Does anybody have any brief question, comment? Yeah. Well, hang on. First, kind of the regular devotees here. Shamachandra Prabhu.
Yeah. Is it okay? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the nice class, Prabhu. Yeah, I was just reflecting on the example you gave of Nelson Mandela, that how after he was, came out of the prison, he was not having any envy towards his so-called enemies, right? So, that's kind of an example of magnanimity, right? And in this connection, I just kind of a reflection. So, in the Chandogya Upanishad, there is an example of a sandalwood tree. How the sandalwood tree is magnanimous. Like when there's a forest fire, all the trees gets burnt up, right? All the trees, they emit foul smell. But the sandalwood tree, even when you burn it, it still gives a sweet smell. So that's a devotee. The devotee, even in the old age, even he's put into a lot of suffering and pain. And even when he was burnt, but he still gives a sweet aroma. Actually, that's an ultimate test of magnanimity. It's not when you're like good in good shape, but it's like when you're in the old age and going through a lot of challenges, and when you put on a fire, like what smell do you emit? And that's a real test of magnanimity, and that's just one thing which I could relate from the Upanishad.
Yeah, thank you. Nice comment. Okay, we'll stop. Thank you very much. Grunta Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.